Well, hey everybody, John Retlin here, and this is a real honest rant about AEW fans versus WWE fans. Because that's a thing, that's something we need. We need fans sniping at each other instead of fucking enjoying the fucking wrestling that's being provided by both these fucking companies. And not just these companies, every wrestling company. It's like, I get it. You get movie fans to snipe at each other, music fans to snipe at each other. You're gonna get feuds in sports and all kinds of things. On politics, I'm not going to get into that, don't worry. But you're going to get people on both sides of a situation or multiple sides of a situation that just can't see how people can view wrestling differently. Now, I want to say, there are people that will say, oh, AEW is the greatest thing in the world. It's this great promotion. It's all this stuff. And you know what? If you think that, that's great. If you get some excitement out of it, fantastic. If you think WWE is the greatest, wrestling company in the world, I might question that right now, given the fact of how things are going, but there's a lot to like in WWE because they're a melting pot of a whole bunch of stuff because of their network and everything. And I've been a WWE fan for a number of years, since 1985. I've been a wrestling fan since 1985, but WWE specifically because that's why I'm wearing this shirt. By the way, my sister made this shirt for me. Well, she bought the shirt and then actually looked at the logo and painted it herself. This is one of my most prized possessions, but also because I've been a wrestling fan for that long, since 1985. I will be a wrestling fan for the rest of my goddamn life. But you know what I love about wrestling? Is that there's something for everybody. Are there certain things I don't like? I can't stand deathmatch wrestling. Some of the comedy bullshit I don't really care for. And there are certain things that I don't like. But you know what? That doesn't mean that I'm more right than another wrestling fan is. So if you thought that Double or Nothing, and this is piggybacking off of Double or Nothing, because I see these pissing contests between these stupid fucking fans that think, oh, one show means that the goddamn war is on and the goddamn war is already over. AEW has been declared the victor. There are some friends of mine that loved Double or Nothing, and myself included. There are some that think that AEW is going to do so many great things. You know what? They very well could. And I got nothing but respect for you guys for thinking that WWE is, running scared. They're not running scared. They should take notice because even despite some issues, they had something for everybody on that goddamn show. Now, did everything work? No. The show did go a little bit goddamn long, in my opinion. But for that price, for the pay-per-view price, it's a good thing that it did. It went the pre-show that you didn't have to buy into went just about an hour. And then the main show went almost 4 hours. So that's probably actually a good thing given the fact that some people were spending 40, 50, 60 bucks in the States and then wherever else, you bought it from, it probably was cheaper, but still it was more than a normal WWE network price. And that's something I want to touch on really, really quickly. That if people were not wanting to buy Double or Nothing because of the price, because they had bills to pay, they had all this stuff, they had stuff to take care of, that is totally fine. I get that. That I totally respect. It's good to be responsible. Even if you're a wrestling fan, you want to be responsible, pay your bills, have a house, have a roof over your goddamn head. That's great. So those that were being picked on because they were being responsible adults, yeah, fuck the fans that were actually picking on people for being responsible adults. Those that were just complaining because it was just a price increase above the network. You do realize that before the network, there were pay-per-views that were 50, 60 bucks, even 65, 70 for HD stuff when they were doing, for WrestleMania and a couple other pay-per-views. Well, I mean, mainly WrestleMania. That's how much that was. There were people still paying out for that until the network came along. The network was a saving grace for WWE. WWE would not be around right now if it wasn't for the network. I'm telling you that right now. Their pay-per-views were continuing to go down. They went to the network out of necessity. It took a while to get things going, and now things are going great. They could do with a little bit better, interface on that thing, and the search engine's a little bit more difficult, but I digress. That's for another day. The whole point is WWE has their network. Not a lot of other companies have something like that until you dive into and realize that, oh yeah, there are other wrestling companies out there. And that's another thing that I want to focus on. It's not just AEW, it's not just WWE. Even though right now, as far as funding, those are the two biggest US companies. New Japan is funded by a really big, by a lot of really big backers. I mean, and, look into it if you don't know exactly what I mean. That would be something, to go into on another video for another day. But Google that stuff, the owners of New Japan, they're pretty fucking wealthy. New Japan will be just fine. But here's my whole point about it. It took me a while as a kid to discover how much other wrestling there was. I did discover Jim Crockett Promotions just before Ted Turner bought out, and I loved WCW and WWE. And I will admit, and I did an unpopular wrestling opinion about ECW a while ago, I never got into ECW, even though I respected a lot of people that were in there. I understood there was a grunge rock thing and a lot of people enjoyed it, and that's great. I just never got into it, but there were plenty of people I knew that were into it. I never talked down about them, even as a teenager, even when I was an extremely hateful teenager, an extremely angry teenager, as opposed to the rosy-cheeked individual that I am now, and the happy-go-lucky person I am, as you can tell in this video. But, from there, when Impact came along, I was excited because it's like, okay, when WCW went away, something in the business died. It did. When WCW, ECW were bought out, ECW declared bankruptcy, WCW was bought out and all that stuff. Something in the business died when NWA, TNA came along. That's why I got this shirt back here. Because I was an Impact fan. I still root for them. I don't get to watch them all that much because I'm covering too much wrestling as it is. I was rooting for them to succeed, and they had chance after chance after chance, and now they're having to earn a whole lot of fans back because of a whole bunch of bullshit that higher-ups did. But they were a company that could have succeeded a whole lot more than they did. And for a while, they were competition to WWE. There was a pissing contest between TNA fanboys and WWE fanboys. And it was hard to argue with some of the TNA fanboys when, Raw, SmackDown weren't all that great, from week to week sometimes. And especially when WWE went to PG. Now, that's something I'll dive into here in a little bit, but, Impact stayed TV 14, and that was a good thing. That was an audience they could, they could get to gravitate towards them. Things were going well with them. Then things kind of fell off the rails. And now they're building stuff back up, and they're doing some good things. I'm not trying to pick on Impact, but for a number of years, they were a good alternative. They still are, because there are some people that like Impact, think Impact's the best wrestling company in the world. Whether I agree or not, if they think that, that's great. There are some Impact fanboys, fangirls that get a little out of control that I can't just deal with on Twitter because they don't want to hear you even, have a fraction of an issue with their company. But still, the whole point is, for years and years, anytime an alternative came up, it helped WWE step up their game. Because when Impact went to Monday nights, WWE brought back Bret Hart and went, all out for a while until Impact, couldn't be on Mondays anymore because they were getting their freaking asses kicked because they had no goddamn plan because Dixie's an idiot. Well, Dixie was an idiot. And they're led by some better management now, despite the fact Disco and Michael Elgin are there. But my whole point is for a while, Impact was a great alternative to WWE, and still is to an extent. Ring of Honor rose up quite a bit. Now, Ring of Honor's kind of fallen back because at G1 Supercard, in my personal opinion, Ring of Honor kind of shit the bed on quite a bit of that. While New Japan was in the hallowed halls of Madison Square Garden and showed, hey, goddammit, we're not just a Japanese-based wrestling company. We got some great stars. We can cater to a global audience. And they have. New Japan from about 2006, once the new owners took over, once Gato took over as Booker and a bunch of other people, they were on their ass. They were having some issues. They have rose up to prominence. You got to study up the history on New Japan because the whole point is watching them succeed. And yet, their style isn't for everybody. More of the other companies treat it like a sport while WWE treats it like sports and entertainment. But there is something for everybody. Even in WWE, there's something for everybody. So let me go back to New Japan really, really quickly here. I do not understand why, personally, WWE fans, New Japan fans, any of these fans can't get along. Because I'm not saying I agree with what everybody's going to say in regards to, oh, hey, it's, this company's the best, this company's the best. I enjoy WWE, New Japan. I'm hopefully going to enjoy AEW, and I'll touch on AEW here in a little bit. But when I got back into New Japan, because I was a fan of Japanese wrestling from the late 80s, early 90s and all that, and tape trading days, and finally got New Japan World last year. I loved it. I loved reviewing it. It has opened up my eyes to a whole lot of fun. I have been to a bunch of indie shows. Myself and the Derb have been to a bunch of indie shows. We will be doing some videos in June or July, possibly July, about, promotions that we have been to. Like a couple promotions that we had been to, and our 1 year, the 1 year to the day of us going to a bunch of indie shows. And it's been a blast. And I'm going to actually show you some shirts that I bought because I'm going to this point to say that if you're burned out on WWE, if you're burned out on, if in New Japan, that kind of stuff, if you're burned out on wrestling that's on streaming services, guess what? Support your local indies. Because I'm going to show you some people that are pretty goddamn good. And some of these are ones that some of these are ones that you know. The Lucha Bros. I got to meet them. Well, I got to meet Pentagon, but he was pretty cool. I then got to meet new NXT signee, Shane Swerve Strickland. It's a fan design, by the way, for his shirt. And then we got Dante, the Legion of Gloom. It's hilarious. No, actually, he's really cool. Then we get one guy in particular I think a company needs to sign. Shaft. Navy veteran, tough as hell, took Walter's chops, and he does some great shit in the ring. Sonico, the Lucha Ghoul. And he's really good. In particular, Durbin, Durb, he talks to him and they get along pretty goddamn well. And then we get to some other shirts here. And give me just a second as I have an issue with a little string here. So anyway, let's get to some more shirts, folks, because I want to show you as to why I enjoy indie wrestling. Pitfall Jones, the indie wrestler. Yes, that says Fedorable on it. The Black Sheep, Dave Turner. That is somebody that the Derb works with. That is one of his co-workers. Cody Chun. I have talked about him. He is somebody that companies need to sign. Christian Andes. Yes, that is the Baby Metal logo, but he is really cool. I got to meet Jeff Cobb. Jeff Cobb, who I absolutely love. I got to meet a couple times. I got to meet Priscilla Kelly. Priscilla Kelly, by the way, who is fucking awesome, and if people are going to pay... And was I a fan of the tampon spot? No, but you know what the whole point is? She's super nice, and guess what? Did not deserve the hate she got. Especially from Gail Kim. And I love Gail Kim, but I'm sorry. Gail Kim comes across as bitter sometimes. Chase James, who's a really great talent. The Weirdo Hero, Randy Myers. Randy Myers, who actually Natalia referenced on her photo shoot episode, and Thunder Rosa, aka Cobra Moon, but now Serpentine from on WoW, because she got let out of her contract, so she's done with the Cobra Moon characters. Now she's Serpentine. The reason I showed you those is indie wrestling saved, basically, it saved my passion for this channel, because I was ready to freaking be done. The Derb helped save my passion for the channel at the end of 2016, because I was going to be done. Indie wrestling helped save my passion for it. I want to say that modern wrestling is not all that bad. WWE, not everything in WWE is all that bad. Creatively, main roster, Raw, SmackDown are suffering terribly. Is there some good shit going? Yes. Kofi is champion. Becky is champion. Rollins is champion right now. Bayley is champion. And, the tag team division, I had to think about, tag team divisions pretty much don't mean anything right now. But they have a really loaded women's division on Raw and SmackDown. NXT, okay, they're still doing some good things. It's not quite as hot as it has been. But still, they're doing some good shit. In NXT UK, which is catering to the UK audience. Not everything's great, but still, they're doing some good shit with it. I do like, the hard-hitting style and everything, and I like the women's division there. And then you have 205 Live. 205 Live, which is having some fucking killer matches. And doing some really great stuff. I'm just not able to watch it as often. But there's a melting pot of stuff and original content and everything. So people to say, oh, modern WWE is shit. I will agree creatively it is pretty shit. There are a lot of issues. There are a lot of issues, and it all comes down to Vince. And let's be honest. And this is where things are going to get a little bit dark. Vince McMahon is going to die controlling WWE. He's not going to leave. There's no goddamn chance. If you think that Vince McMahon is going to leave the company, relinquish power, I will be very fucking surprised if he does. I just can't fucking see it happening. It's gonna have to end up with his death before the company maybe even gets a fraction better. Because he is essentially Vern Gagne now. He is late Vern Gagne. And I'm talking like running the later days of the AWA. They were out of ideas. They were out of really original ideas. And yeah, there are things that pop up here and there, but there's no continuity. There's no storylines. There's no this. There's no that. But does that mean that WWE is the worst thing in the world? But yes, it kind of is. It's not not the worst thing in the world. Jesus Christ, not the worst thing in the world. Creatively, there are some shit things they are doing. They are not utilizing enough of their talents correctly. They have too many talents. They need to get rid of some talents because otherwise, all it's going to fucking do is burn out the fans more. If they keep producing more content, people already aren't watching 205 Live enough. I don't know how the numbers on NXT UK do, but I can't imagine they're terribly good. Even the NXT Weekly TV, which still does pretty well, I can't imagine it's as high as it has been. Ratings on Raw and SmackDown are falling, and there are ways to fix that. And shout out to Evelina WWE, who came up with 9 ways to fix the failing ratings in WWE. And they were really good ideas. It was something like that. I don't remember the exact wording of the video, but of the title of the video. But she did a really good job there. But the reason I showed you those shirts, you never know who you're going to see at an indie show. You could see the stars of tomorrow. You could see some local talents that you could suddenly see in 2 years on WWE TV, New Japan, Ring of Honor, Shine, Shimmer if they're women, in CMLL and or AAA in Mexico. Hopefully CMLL, because they're not quite the clusterfuck that AAA is. Or even in the UK or on the Australia independent scene. All over, there's wrestling all over the goddamn world. Wrestling is more accessible than it ever has been. Yet, is it as strong as it was in the territory days? No. But there also wasn't as much shit to do because there were some TV channels and stuff like that, but there wasn't as much to do in, in the 60s, 70s, 80s and stuff like that. 80s, yeah, cable started coming along in the 70s and everything, but 80s, things were getting better and cocaine came along, which apparently made everything better for people, except for in World Class. That didn't go so well. And I'm not making a dig, but seriously, yeah, that drug problem really, crushed that company. But in the 90s, we're having more cable stuff. You had the Monday Night Wars. That was a great time to be a wrestling fan. I can't say enough of how great of a time that was to be a wrestling fan. And this kind of goes back to the whole thing of competition. Fans have always sniped at each other. There were always WWE fans, there were always WCW fans, there were fans right in the middle. I was one of those fans in the middle. You know why? Because I appreciate good motherfucking wrestling. That's what I appreciate. I appreciate variety in my wrestling. I appreciate comedy. I appreciate drama. I appreciate great athleticism. Even if it's people I don't necessarily like. Let me give you an example. The Young Bucks, who I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of. I wasn't the biggest fan of like some of the stuff they did in 2018. One match got me sort of on their side. Sort of on their side enough to where I said, okay, now I see why the fuck people say that they're really good. They faced off against Golden Lovers, Kenny Omega and Kota Ibushi at Strong Style Evolved, New Japan's USA show. That was good shit. That was a great match, full of drama, full of great stuff with Omega and the Bucks friendship. Ibushi also being Omega's friend and, his lover, and that's a story you can read up on. But good on Omega and Ibushi for being open about who they are. And the Bucks, hey, they've carved their own path. I have nothing but respect for them for that, even if I don't think they're the best tag team in the world. Other people to think they're the best tag team in the world, that's great. What also helped me, gain respect for them, myself and the Durbinator were at a Defy Northwest Wrestling show in January, and they made an unannounced appearance. Joey Ryan was still suffering, dealing with a pec injury, and was a ring announcer, and then got beat up by some guys. And then because he's their friend, music hits, and I still remember, and I still get goosebumps about it because it's like I hear the music, and I'm just like, that can't be. And the music hit, super kick party, super kick party, hits that. I can't really do that all that well. 500 fans in that freaking little theater, Washington Hall, that little stage theater, made the noise of about 2,000-3,000 people. It shook the wall. It shook the floor. That is passion for wrestling. That shows that even if people weren't the biggest fans of the Bucks, a collection of wrestling fans from all walks of life could enjoy a goddamn show. And that's what's great about some WWE events. People from all walks of life, like WrestleMania, SummerSlam, WrestleMania in particular. You get people from all over the goddamn world coming to see that, and everybody can come together and enjoy wrestling. Wrestling is one of the biggest forms of escape. probably the greatest form of escape. It has helped me with depression, anxiety. It has not necessarily helped me with my anger, given how I've ranted about WWE. Many of you guys have watched that, and thank you very much for the great compliments on that. But yes, WWE can be frustrating. I am just as excited for AEW to succeed. And shout out to Evelina WWE once again, because she brought up some questions and questions for me, or hashtag Ask for Honesty episode, which was originally questions for me. That was episode 7. If the link's not up here to be, on my timeline, you could check that out. But she brought up, like, how could things change in AEW? What could they do to get things better? Because a lot of people were saying, like, oh, it's like, oh, Vince was running scared. Vince may be aware of it, but I'm sorry. You know what other company had? And I'll get back to Valana's points in just a second. You know what other company had a ton of money, run by a billionaire, had great television clearance and everything, and could have taken the fight to WWE and won? WCW. You know what the fuck happened to WCW? They're dead. They're fucking dead. I'm not saying the WWE can't be hurt by AEW. Because right now, with their loaded talent roster and their television clearance and the great TV deals they have, and the fact that they have never made more money now than in history, they made more money now than they ever have in history. They're so profitable, but morale is at an all-time low, apparently, because they have too many people. It's like rats on a sinking ship. These rats are going to have to leave eventually. You're going to have people. You're going to have people abandon ship, or otherwise the ship's going to capsize. It is going to sink, and things are going to get bad. AEW is not going to kill WWE. WWE is going to kill WWE. Vince McMahon, back in 2002, when he brought the NWO in, I'm going to inject the WWF with a lethal dose of poison. This was a few months before it became WWE. Vince McMahon has been injecting poison into his company. Now, let me make it clear. I don't think Vince believes that anybody can run the company besides him. That's why I think it's going to take his death before the company can succeed creatively. Financially, the company is fucking succeeding. Like, it's doing, great fucking business. It's like wildfire. It's not Tommy Rich. It's doing absolutely goddamn great. But now the AEW is coming along. Yes, it's funded by a billionaire. Tony Khan is a wrestling fan. Cody, the Bucks, Omega, Hangman to a lesser degree, and I feel bad for saying it, but Hangman's almost like the Shemp of, like, the group. Like, like of the Three Stooges and stuff like that. He just feels like the odd one out. And I feel bad for saying that, because Hangman probably is actually the best athlete of anybody in that group. He's just not as flashy. Yes, he hits the buckshot lariat, and he can hit some impressive dives, shooting star off the apron, not hitting the apron, which, as we know, is the hardest part of the ring. And the point is you have the elite, the elite. All In was a pretty big success. I believe Ring of Honor helped fund that, though. But still, it was a big success. And Cody and the Bucks deserve a lion's share, and Omega deserve a lion's share of the credit for that, and so do the fans. Yes, they filled the MGM Grand. It did really well. Hopefully it did well on pay-per-view. Hopefully it did well, like, as far as, like, the buy-in, the pre-show and everything. It's one big successful night. StarCast apparently was a successful weekend. I mean, I think it's, like, just finishing up now since I'm recording this Sunday night. Or maybe finish up now. I don't know. The whole point is they have this big Legends convention, all this stuff. Everything seems big. They have this lavish production. It looks good. They've got a lot of really good talent, a lot of up-and-coming talent I've heard from or heard of, but have not seen. There is a lot of really good shit they could do. And actually, now that I think about it, people they could sign, if they want to sign women, Tennille Dashwood, Thunder Rosa. Thunder Rosa is somebody they should sign. I would love to see her get that chance. I think Priscilla Kelly would also be somebody great to sign. You know why? Because Darby Allin got signed to All Elite Wrestling. And if you don't know, Priscilla Kelly and Darby Allin are dating. And if you haven't seen Priscilla Kelly and Darby Allin wrestle, please do so. Darby is fucking tremendous. Priscilla, my God, beautiful gothic beauty. They can actually wrestle. She really can. She actually knows what the fuck she's doing in the ring. She is not just a pretty face. She has a beautiful face. But by God, can she wrestle really well. And Thunder Rosa, incredibly good in the ring. Great in the ring, and a great inspiration to many. Especially for working moms. Because she is a mother. And you wouldn't know it, unless you follow her on Instagram and Twitter, because she's very open about the fact she's a great family woman. She's also incredible in the ring. And very nice if you ever get a chance to meet her. My whole point is, of this video, let's get back to the AEW WWE thing. Fans need to come together. You're always going to have your favorites. There are people that love Baron Corbin, and I just want to like scream at him, but I don't, because they have their favorites. I got in arguments. I lost friends last year and in other years, but especially last year, because the sniping just got too out of goddamn control. And on my side also, if they happen to be watching this, on my side also, I admit that I got too damn angry. But there was other people that I didn't mind seeing them go because they were pieces of shit and Trump supporters. I'm sorry if you're a Trump supporter watching this, you know how I feel. But the whole point is with AEW, it was one night. It is a start. It is a great night. Was it a perfect show? No, it was not. But it was a lot of goddamn fun. And that's what it should have been. It featured great wrestling, some great entertainment. That women's Japanese match, Joshi. Well, actually, Derb did it better because you may sound like Yoshi. But Yuka, Hiraku Shida, who I think is going to be a fucking star right there. She could be their Asuka because she has that look. But Yuka, just that freaking, just J-pop entrance, just absolutely adorable. The pointy shoes and all that, and the fact that she's like 90 pounds and she can just do so goddamn great, or so much great stuff in the ring. You got Aja Kong, you got some other women, you got, they had Awesome Kong come in. I don't know if that's going to just be a one-off or what. Nyla Rose, I'm very impressed with. And there are people that are saying, oh, Nyla Rose, she's a transgender woman, she's a guy, she's like this. Fuck you. Making jokes is one thing. I make jokes about people all the goddamn time. But you know what? We really need to stop being like that. TNA Creative and I have made jokes about a certain someone in WWE. I'm not going to mention that right here, but if they watch this, you know who I'm talking about. But it's all in good fun. Jokes are one thing. It's the people that are being mean-spirited, like the stuff about Nyla Rose, which, look, I don't know Nyla Rose's story. I don't know when she transitioned to being a woman. And it's none of my business. I appreciate her as an athlete. Her Twitter game, by the way, is on goddamn point. Her and Kelly Klein. Kelly Klein is somebody that I would like to see get more attention. She's doing well in Ring of Honor, in the Women of Honor division. But I'd love to see what she could do in All Elite Wrestling. I'm not saying gut every single person in a company, but Kelly Klein could do well on a stage like that. Because, I don't know what Ring of Honor is going to be doing in a couple years. But the whole point is, Nyla Rose's Twitter game on point, same with Kelly Klein. There are a lot of great women's wrestlers to watch, and I think that is something that All Elite Wrestling is going to tap into, because WWE has tremendous women's wrestlers. Stardom, Shine, Shimmer. Allison Kay, Sienna, she just recently won the NWA Women's Championship in a match against Santana Garrett on the NWA Crockett Cup, and yes, I did review that. Thank you guys, by the way, for over 800 views on that video. Thank you for just from a wrestling fan to all other fellow wrestling fans, if you ever get my videos up that much. Because it really means a lot. Just for somebody that produces something on their phone, it really means a lot. But back to the whole thing with All Elite Wrestling. They have a good women's division loaded with some up-and-coming women that have names. Britt Baker, Aja Kong probably has the biggest name. And no, that's not a weight joke. She literally has the biggest name. And yeah, Awesome Kong, but I don't know how long she's going to be around. As far as women that they could build around, Britt Baker, yes, Kylie Rae, smiling Kylie Rae. I don't know how well that gimmick's going to get over with me, but I'm very interested to see what she can do. The women that they featured in the Joshi Pro Wrestling, Sadie Gibbs, there's a lot to be excited for. In the men's division, there's a lot to be excited for. You got Sonny Kiss, gay, openly gay wrestler. Not that his gimmick wouldn't have given that away right there in his look, but great for him. I had never heard the name, and what I just saw, the antics and the little bit that he did in the Casino Battle Royal, I want to see more. I want to see what he can do in a match. Is he just comedy? Can he actually work? I would like to see that. There's a host of great stuff. MJF is somebody I got to put over, and again, shout out to Valena. She talked about MJF. Her and I talked a little bit about him. And that guy is fucking tremendous. I saw him at the Defy Northwest Wrestling show. That guy is absolute goddamn money. Jim Cornette has put him over on Major League Wrestling, MLW. On commentary. He just says he is absolutely great. MJF doesn't even need to be the best wrestler, because he just gets so much great heat, and he's only in his early 20s. That is somebody they could build around for 15 goddamn years. And imagine when he gets out of the ring, this guy could be a manager for 20 more years after he's out of the ring. They could use him for, out of the ring full time. They could use him for manager spots. That guy's got a fucking career for 40 years. I'm serious. If he wanted to have occasional appearances and anything into his early 60s, he could have it. I cannot say enough great things about MJF. But back to stuff that Valena said, because this is something I want to touch on. What does WWE or what does AEW need to do? Because WWE, they're set. They're making their money. Yes, their ratings are falling. AEW could dent them, but they don't have a TV deal kicking in until October. They have a TV deal, but it doesn't kick in for a few months. So right now, they are just producing big shows, which is great. They're doing one for in Jacksonville called Fight for the Fallen, where most of the proceeds are going to the victims of gun violence, which is great. That's a great cause. That's going to get people on your side. Doing the right things and using the talents the right way will get people's attention. WWE is set as far as money and everything, unless that Fox deal falls apart because they want $3 million a year for viewers, or $3 million a day, or $3 million a week. I mean, $3 million a year for viewers, $3 million a week per year. Oh, they ain't gonna get $3 million. I don't care how big Fox's reach is. They might get 2, might get 2.5. But anyway, WWE's set on that stuff. They're up here as far as finances and world appeal and stuff like that, even though morale is low and creative is low. And you got New Japan, and you got New Japan, AEW, you got Ring of Honor, you got Impact and stuff like that. No offense, Impact's pretty much down there. But even though they have a good niche product, they don't have any momentum, even though the talent is working hard. But I put that shirt there because I'm still an Impact fan because I want to see things succeed, even if there are people I don't like. With AEW, what could they do to improve? They need to not use JR in commentary. And this is going to turn into a bit of a rant here at the end. They need to not use JR in commentary. The Dustin Cody match was fine. Him and with Jericho and Omega was fine. Use him sparingly. It reminds me of what WCW did with Gordon Solie in the late 80s, early 90s. And Gordon Solie, one of the best wrestling announcers of all time. One of the best wrestling commentators of all time. Easily. He could describe shit. Well, yes, he had that dry wit and everything and that dry sense of humor, but it worked. And it worked because he also knew wrestling. He'd been doing it for like 30 fucking years by that point. What's great about JR is he does have a wealth of knowledge. He just doesn't have the passion to do it that often. Telling stories in the Cody Dustin match was fine. But what they should have done, and shout out to another person who suggested this, I don't remember who, Brandon, BSG 103079, to hire Joey Styles or try to get Joey Styles. I don't know what Joey Styles is doing, but it wouldn't have hurt to try to get him in there because Joey could call shit. He's called 3-hour pay-per-views on his own before. He could have done some great things. He would have been able to do well. Or just have Excalibur and Alex Marvez call it because Excalibur is fucking tremendous. Now, they couldn't get Kevin Kelly in there, and I know Caprice Coleman's working for Ring of Honor, and Ring of Honor and New Japan have a working relationship, but fuck, get somebody else in there. I don't know who the fuck else you could have gotten, but good God, you got to get somebody else in there other than JR. And I mean, I love JR. I respect JR. One of the greatest commentators of all time. But he doesn't fucking have it anymore. And his commentary kind of drug that show down. It lent some credibility to some matches and drug others down because he didn't seem to know. Now, to be fair, he has health issues. He's had a whole lot of strife in his life. I get that. I respect that. And I'm not knocking him for that. But they got to move on from him. Have him in a backstage role. Bring in a hungry announcer. I don't know who the fuck you could bring in. Suggest some announcers like that are young and hungry that they could bring in. Leave them in the comments on that. One thing they need to be careful with is they need to be careful with the shots they take at WWE. Now, I'm not saying WWE and AEW taking shots at each other are bad. The Monday Night War era, people were taking shots. They were taking shots at each other every single week. WCW and WWE was, and ECW was taking shots at both of them. Even though, commercially they were like way down here, but they were succeeding, but they weren't getting the big ratings because they didn't have the big TV deal. And then TNN came along and pretty much killed them because financially it wasn't good. But anyway, WCW and WWE did so much sniping at each other, it was goddamn ridiculous. So for the fans who are saying, oh, the company should not do this and not do that, I agree that AEW needs to differentiate themselves from WWE and say, oh, oh, hey, WWE's doing this and this and this, we're going to make fun of it. Well, then that might just make some fans go watch WWE. WWE making fun of AEW, well, it can't be that bad, but maybe I should go check out that pay-per-view. It can breed good competition and and alternatives will help the wrestling business, which comes back to the whole crux of this rant. The wrestling fans that want AEW to die, fuck you. If you want WWE to die, fuck you. If you want other wrestling companies to die, fuck you. There are some companies I don't like. More than that. Like Impact, Ring of Honor, I just really can't get as into. Though I like some guys in Ring of Honor, Jeff Cobb, Bandito in particular. Jeff Cobb's flat out ridiculous. If you ever get a chance to see him, he's fucking tremendous. But anyway, in closing with this, the whole point is, guys, enjoy wrestling. Just enjoy it. If you enjoy WWE, great. If you enjoy AEW, great. If you enjoy both, if you enjoy New Japan, if you enjoy if you enjoy Stardom, if you enjoy, wrestling in Germany, in Britain, in other parts of Europe, if you enjoy the Australian independent scene, you enjoy Lucha Libre in Mexico, as opposed to Lucha Libre in Canada, which I'm sure exists. If you enjoy, Canadian independent wrestling, if you enjoy local independent wrestling, I enjoy independent wrestling. I get more of a thrill going out to those shows. I'm not going to go to WWE events for a while because I just don't have the passion for it. And it's too much money. It's too much money to invest when I don't feel like I'm getting my money back. Defy back there, $80, and I get front row. Myself and Derb get front row. We get to meet the wrestlers. We get to have fun. We get to meet some of the local towns. I've gotten to meet people I didn't know existed because I was in a certain bubble. So that's the great thing about indie wrestling, is it can turn you on to a whole bunch of other stars and everything, and you can see people you never thought you'd be able to see live. I got to see Ultimo Dragon live. I never thought I'd be able to say that. I got to see him live and got to meet him. One of my heroes. But anyway, in closing, enjoy wrestling for what it is. I'm not saying you shouldn't voice your opinion. By all means, say what you will, have your passion, have fun and everything, but let's take it easy on knocking a whole bunch of wrestling fans. Now, I have been guilty of knocking fans and will do it in the future. But let's be cool, have fun, joke around, enjoy wrestling words. WWE, down to the indies, all in between. Have fun with it, because otherwise, what the fuck's the point? And also, AEW, WWE, it ain't a fucking war yet. Let them get on TV. Let AEW get on TV. Get the passion keep the passion up for a number of weeks and months. And then maybe it'll start to be something. But they're going to be an alternative. They're not going to unseat WWE. At least not for a while. WWE will unseat WWE. Anyway, that's what I have to say. Agree, disagree with what I said. Like, share, subscribe. Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Ritlin. I will see you soon.